Well, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has asked Congress to let talks with Iran continue, quote, without interference. Kerry says lawmakers should, in his words, hold the fire while negotiations continue with Iran. He will brief the lawmakers on the Lausanne understanding between Iran and the P5+1 on Monday. Now, the White House has been under pressure by hawkish lawmakers over Iran talks. Some lawmakers want to have a say in a possible final deal with Iran. President Barack Obama has so far refused to allow a congressional review of potential agreement with Tehran. Crossing over to Irvine, California, joined by political analyst Mr. Nader Bagherzadeh. Thank you so much for being with us. What do you make of this latest comment by Secretary Kerry?
It's reiterating what Mr. Obama had said today, that do not prejudge this agreement. Wait for us to move forward, see what we can do in 2 months. Then you can do whatever you want to do, but don't prejudge it. Mr. Obama was very clear, and he was very unhappy with the comments coming from some hawkish senators. I think Mr. McCain had said that Iranians are more honest than Mr. Kerry, and he cannot understand why this would come into the foreign policy of United States decision makers. So hopefully they will give him a chance to proceed and move forward and come up with a detailed agreement, hopefully by the end of June, and we'll see what happens. But hawkish senators are trying very hard to derail this, at least by having it reviewed.
Well, let's look at the Congress in general, and as you say, trying to make these moves to derail. Do you see this perspective gaining momentum or not within the Congress of trying to actually put more pressure on Iran even during these talks?
So if you look at what has been reported by major media in the United States, Republicans are wholeheartedly behind this. So they have a majority over 50 votes, I think 51 or 52 probably. They need to pull over some of the Democrats that are in favor of having this reviewed, as Senator Coker wants to do it. And the numbers that are reported are 63 to 64 probably confirmed. The key person is Mr. Schumer. Senator Schumer is under a lot of pressure, again reported by New York Times, what to do about this. Go with the White House or go with his constituents in New York. They have to get to 67 votes to have the supermajority for veto-proof legislation, and that is still questionable. And Mr. Schumer is playing a key role here from what has been reported.
So from the Iranian perspective, what exactly, and when they're dealing with the P5+1 and they're sitting down and they're having these talks and they see or they think that it's going one way, but then back in Washington, then the Congress is talking about other things and possibly trying to put more pressure on Iran. So what should be done about this? I mean, does the administration has the independence to deal with this as far as representing the nation itself? Or is it almost as if Iran is wasting time talking to Kerry because at the end of the day, he has to go back to Washington and the Congress will flex their muscles, of course, at the bidding of Israel. So tell me, in the mix of this, can Iran be confident when they're dealing with an entity like that during the talks?
So according to the laws and the Constitution, the foreign policy is set by the president, executive power. Although the legislation is in charge of setting up the laws, and Mr. Obama and his team are supposed to execute the law. In my opinion, based on international laws and what Mr. Zarif has said, he has to go along with working with the White House representatives, Mr. Kerry, Ms. Sherman, and others to move on. Relying on what the Congress will or will not do will definitely stop this on its tracks. And I think Mr. Zarif has been going along those lines, and we have to see what will happen. But it is disappointing, to say the least, not only for Iran, but probably for other members of the P5+1, putting so much energy and effort into this and finding out that ultimately the White House cannot deliver on what it plans to do.
Okay.
So the situation doesn't look good. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nader Baghazadeh, political analyst out of Irvine, California.